Welcome to the Drake Shake, a polar podcast hosted by seasoned Antarctica expedition guide Neil Drake. With over 10 seasons guiding and 1,000 days spent on the ice, Neil will be joined by fellow guides and industry experts to share their years of experience and knowledge to help you make the most informed decision when planning your once-in-a-lifetime adventure. From picking the right itinerary to deciding when to go, we will cover it all. The Drake Shake is brought to you by Antarctica Travel Group and Let'sGoPolar.com. Now, here's your host, Neil Drake, with this week's episode.
It'll make me blush.
Do we remember how to do this? It's only been a month since we recorded.
I believe in us more than anything.
I think we could do this.
I don't know. I don't have much faith.
So two sides of a coin.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to get to the episode. I hit record a minute ago and we're just babbling now. We'll be able to pull some, we'll pull some gold off of that. All right. Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Drake Shake podcast. My name is Neil Drake and I'll be your host. And today I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Nikki.
Hello. Yeah.
Welcome back, Nikki. It's been a minute. We haven't recorded in over a month. We didn't abandon the podcast by any means whatsoever. You've just been on the move. We've been like full on redesigning of the website, a whole bunch of new features. We're grinding away. We discovered Claude. So it's, we're Claudeaholics. And then you just got back from Iceland. So let's talk a little bit about that. We didn't have like we're going to be on because Nikki is going to Iceland kind of thing. We did that on your last trip and then we kind of jinxed it. You got stuck on board with hantavirus. And so you just got back from Iceland. Let's talk a little bit about that really quick. And then we'll bring in our very special guest, only the 17th time on the show, but we'll bring him in here in a second. So,
very special.
Talk to us about Iceland. How was it? It was Iceland, Greenland, Iceland.
Yeah. So it was a round trip from Iceland to Greenland, Reykjavik to Reykjavik. It was with Swan Hellenic. It was a 10-day trip. It was fantastic. I saw so much cool stuff. I saw orcas. I haven't seen that many orcas in my lifetime, but this was hands down the closest orca encounter I've ever had. So that was really neat. We saw some musk ox and it was a really lovely time. It was super last minute. You messaged me July 8th or something like that. And you were like, hey, do you want to go to Iceland on the 30th? And I was like, yeah. So everything happened really quickly. But it was a great time.
Yeah, because we do agent familiarization trips. I call them FAM trips for those at home who don't understand what that means. Basically, companies will reach out to us and they'll say, hey, we have this offering, we have this ship, we have this itinerary. We'd love for your team to see it. And they were trying to get me and Ricardo to go, and then we couldn't go. Our timing didn't line up, and there was still some space available on it. So we were like, well, Nikki's never been to the Arctic. Oh, you had been to the Arctic. You'd done Svalbard before,
I did
right?
Svalbard. Yeah, I did Svalbard before, but I had never been to Iceland at all. And I had never been to Greenland. So it was pretty perfect for me because now I've kind of hit the three major players in the Arctic region. So I feel pretty good about my knowledge with that moving forward.
And that's sort of the point of it, right? We have a travel agency like everybody knows, and we want to make sure that we know what we're offering when we offer the product. So Swan Hellenic was your fourth company you've been with now. So like for you to be able to speak on behalf of onboard experiences, how they differ, right? Giving comparisons to the guests that are planning to book their trips and just say, hey, the vibe on this is a little bit different. But we did learn some lessons. Nikki's shorts were a little too short for the dining room on Swan Hellenic, so they redacted the legs.
I got I don't want to say told off, but I did have to adjust my clothing for dinner times, which is fine.
Polite correction.
Which might not be the case for some other companies, right? Like maybe some of the more casual companies might not.
Ocean Wide had no problem. Other companies haven't minded. So
so
interesting. Something to consider.
And then before we move on to our guest, big news while you're still in Iceland, and tomorrow is the eclipse. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Yes.
Kind of a little jealous. We should have ended up going if I had put the 2 and 2 together, but you're going to be there for the eclipse.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's looking like the weather may not hold up necessarily, but we'll see how it unfolds. We'll see how it goes. And either way, it's cool to get a couple extra days in Reykjavik.
Well, I'll tell you from our experience, Mr. Hunter and I, we were both on board the eclipse trip in Antarctica together. I think it was like the first trip we might have worked together.
Was that October 2021?
That
eclipse trip happened.
Yeah.
And
that was our first trip.
It was one of the very first trips of the Ocean Victory. And we had this group of eclipse hunters come on board. and they were diehard. They traveled the world looking for eclipses, and it was more of just like the spirit of the hunt, because we got to the South Orkneys along with every other ship, and it was completely overcast. There was one ship that was up by the Falklands that got a little bit of the eclipse, but everybody else just got totally clouded out. So I hope the guys in East Greenland are doing a bit better. If you look at the ship tracker right now, there is probably 30 ships in and around Scoresby in the national park there. So it's busy, and everyone is just comparing notes and looking at cloud trackers, and there's a whole science that goes into it. So a lot of fingers crossed up in Greenland at the moment.
All right. Today's episode, we have, as you already know, Mr. Phil Hunter is back in the house.
Heyo, Vuvuzela World Cup. Let's go.
We kind of put this together last minute. I hit up Phil. We realized we hadn't recorded in a little while. Nikki's just been super busy, and then Nikki's got a little time to herself before she gets back on the move. So Phil, thanks for coming in such a pinch. And I asked Phil what we want to talk about today, and he had a great idea. Talking about the sort of onboard experience, sort of focusing on Zodiac cruising mainly, is something we want to talk about today, because I think that it leads into a lot of the pre-decision making that people go through before they start selecting their trips. And that's what season 1 is all about, the pre-selection of your trip. And that comes down to, I think, ship size is where this conversation becomes important, because a lot of people reach out to us and they say things like, I want to book a ship with less than 100 passengers so I can, quote, hear it all the time. Nikki, how often do we hear this? Make as many landings as possible. I want to spend as much time on land as possible. I want to see as much wildlife on land as possible. It's a constant theme that we hear from people when they're in their planning stages. And I think Phil bringing up the idea of Zodiac cruising specifically is a great idea, because I truly believe in the heart of my heart that the magic of Antarctica happens in the Zodiacs.
Yep. Yep. 100%. I agree. I love landings, of course, but I love a Zodiac cruise so much. Like, I think more. I think I prefer it, honestly.
So the one thing I always try to explain to people when they're on a Zodiac cruise, especially at the beginning of the trip, is that Antarctica is a marine environment. Yes, you have penguin colonies on shore, but the whales, the penguins, everything else feeds in the ocean. All the action happens in the ocean. You can go and stand with penguins on a landing site and get some great photos of penguins. But when you go and you're looking for those true wildlife interactions that really thrill you and wow you, for me, that has always happened in a Zodiac. You know, that is always what's the most exciting thing that can happen that you can look forward to. You know, it's seeing seals and whales and the penguins in the water swimming and porpoising. I mean, that's all possible on a Zodiac, and you don't really get that from shore. You can see some of that from a distance if you're standing on a beach, but in the Zodiac, you put yourself right in the middle of it with the icebergs and the glaciers. It's pretty sweet, and I don't think people really understand that when they first get down to the peninsula, that you're in a marine ecosystem, and all the action is happening on the water.
I think to build on what you're saying is that when you take everybody to land and they get back to the ship, they're not saying like, oh, how was your landing? What did you see? Because they all saw the same thing. But when you go on a Zodiac cruise and you get back to the ship and people are like, what did you see on your Zodiac cruise? And somebody may have seen whales feeding, while somebody might have seen a leopard seal on ice. We try to show everybody the same thing as much as we can. We're always on the radio communicating with one another. The guides are always talking and saying like, hey, we've got leopard seal on ice over here, and we'll pass by. But sometimes, like, by the time that the last boat gets there, the seal might have come off the ice, or maybe the whales have just kind of moved on from the zone that they were in. No two Zodiac cruises are ever the same. And I feel like you just get so much more diversity when you're in a Zodiac. That's sort of where I see the main difference. And I understand the allure of wanting to be on land as much as possible, because that's stepping foot on the 7th continent and boots on the ground. I don't want to say that after the duration of a 4, 5, 6 days in Antarctica, that the landings become repetitive, because they're not repetitive. They are consistent, almost is like the word, right? Take you on land, you walk on snow, you see some penguins in their rookeries. It might be early season, so you're seeing a lot of courting behavior. It might be mid-season, you're seeing feeding of the of the chicks. It might be later season and you see them running around. But the behavior of the wildlife on land is pretty consistent throughout all the landing sites. And some of them might be more challenging hikes. Some of them might be a little more spread out. Some of them might have like bigger glacial views or elevated views. Some of them might have a museum on them, or like Port Lockroy. Some might have a research station. So there is, I don't want to say it's repetitive. I will just say that in terms of being on land throughout the duration of a trip, you hear more people towards the end say they enjoy the Zodiac cruises more because they felt like they saw more and they saw more diversity. That's what Phil was saying through all of that, because the marine environment, like he's described, is so dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. That sums it up really well. And before we get too much deeper, Neil, what I think we should do is define what a Zodiac cruise is.
Great idea.
Because there's so many people that haven't seen a Zodiac. They don't know what the boats look like. They don't know what a Zodiac cruise entails or how many people are on board or any of that. Nikki, from a guest perspective, like what is a Zodiac cruise?
Zodiac cruising is when there's these smaller boats that can fit around 10 passengers plus your expedition guide, and you're cruising closer to the water and you're able to get a more intimate experience with the land and with the ocean and with the environment around you. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's gorgeous. I love it.
You said one thing, and I was going to cover this a little bit later, but you kind of queued it up. You said that you have a more intimate experience with like the land and the environment and all that kind of stuff. There's one other aspect to the Zodiac cruising that I find that's more valuable than almost all of that. And you have a more intimate experience with your expedition team, right? But you have maybe 7, 8 or 9 other guests, depending on, ship capacity and load size. But you've got this whole hour and a half with an expedition guide that is there to educate you, inspire you, and just make your experience just way more immersive and enjoyable. But you've also got somebody that you can just ping your questions off of. And if you're on one of the ships that typically do a lot more Zodiac cruising than others, which we'll get into, you're going to have a whole diversity of specializations and knowledge bases in your roster. So one trip you might get an ornithologist who likes to talk about birds and penguins. Then you might get a glaciologist as your next driver. Then you might get a historian as another driver. Then you get a marine ecologist and then a whale expert. So throughout the trip, when you're on the landing sites, you're kind of moving around kind of quick. You want to see everything. Your guides are there to kind of point you in the right direction and ask questions, but you only have a couple minutes of them. You're going to ping a question off of them and then you're going to just keep walking along. In the Zodiac cruise, you have all this time and it's like kind of being in your own private classroom. And then you've got other people on the Zodiac with you to kind of feed off that. It's not just an immersive experience with the environment, but if you really want to take a lot of the educational content and the learning out of this, it's definitely a better opportunity.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The trip that I was just on, we did a Zodiac cruise through some glaciers in Greenland, and I happened to get super lucky and have a glaciologist as my driver. So he was telling me all these things about glaciers that even though this was my 4th expedition, they were still things that I did not know before. And it was so useful to look around and be like, okay, now I understand what this means. Now I understand what this means. Now I understand what this means. Like you said, it's such an intimate and just special thing. And then you also get to create these memories with your guides and you get to have moments with people. And I really love that aspect as well. The socialization is really nice.
Phil, do you have anything to add as to like what a Zodiac cruise is? Do you want to elaborate a little bit? Is there anything that we want?
Yeah. So for people that haven't seen a Zodiac before, it's a inflatable boat made of rubber. It's an RIB, rigid inflatable boat. It has an outboard engine on the back. In typically a Mark V Zodiac, which is what most of the expedition industry uses, has space for 10 people. You've got a lot of room if you're with 6 or 8. With 10 people, it's comfortable, but you've got a full boat. And the Zodiac cruise will always leave from the ship or will leave from a landing site where the operation is conducting a landing and will tour the area around the ship if you're in a bay or a fjord or there's something that you can only see by Zodiac, which is often the case, or you'll be touring the area around a landing site if there's a landing being run in conjunction with the Zodiac cruise. The Zodiac cruise is typically anywhere from 30, 40 minutes and up to like an hour and a half. You might have a really ambitious Zodiac cruise go out one day that is 2 hours. And if you're in the Antarctic, it's something that you want to plan for, to have extra layers that you can put on during a Zodiac cruise because, as opposed to a landing where you're out and walking around, you're sat on a Zodiac. And that is definitely something where you get a little colder. So extra layers, extra pair of socks, warm hat, gloves, that kind of thing is really valuable. And while you're sat in a boat, you're still exposed to the elements as well. Not every day is a balmy bluebird, flat, calm water kind of day in the Antarctic. You do get swell. You do get spray that comes over the side of the Zodiac. So you want to make sure that your stuff is waterproofed and protected. So when it comes to what you bring on a Zodiac, that's something that you want to definitely consider, is that things can get wet. And we can get into that later. We can talk about what you typically want to bring or camera equipment. I can tell you that many of my best photos that I've taken as a guide have come from a Zodiac. So you definitely want to bring cameras and stuff out there. But that's part of the consideration that people should have when they go to the Antarctic, is just preparing for, yes, the landings, but also the Zodiac cruises, because they do represent a big part of your trip. You'll spend a significant amount of time on the Zodiacs. The ship gets you down there, but the Zodiacs get you to the stuff that you want to be doing.
That's a great segue into the next topic I want to talk about, is kind of when do we do these Zodiac cruises, right? Because it's not the same for every ship and operator, every occurrence. Coming back to this, I want to book a ship under 100 passengers. Believe it or not, those ships tend to do less Zodiac cruises than ships that are between the 100 and 200 mark. And I don't want to say that that's the case for every ship, because I don't want to make an umbrella statement. But typically with those 100 passenger or less ships, you're landing the whole ship at the same time. You're only allowed to have 100 people on shore at a time. So if you've got a passenger capacity of 100 or 99 passengers and you can land the whole 100, you're going to spend as much time as you can on land, and you don't necessarily have the team to do a landing and a Zodiac cruise coherently, because you have shuttle drivers and then you have the landing team. I have been on smaller passenger ships where we kind of do the long way, take the long way back, which is we pick you up from shore and then we take you on a little mini Zodiac cruise so that we can get you back to the ship. But we will show you things here and there. Or in that case, with these less than 100 passenger ships, sometimes we go to locations that are specifically known for their Zodiac cruising. And the one we've talked about many times, a good example, is either the Iceberg Graveyard or Sierra Cove. These locations don't have landing sites. And the reason that we go there to cruise is because they're known for huge congregations of either whales, seals, or icebergs, hence the name, the Iceberg Graveyard. So sometimes we'll do a Zodiac cruise in those locations, but maybe you'll do one or two of those on your itinerary. And then you'll be doing landings all the other times with very minimal Zodiac cruising. Where if you book one of these ships that's between 100 and 200 passengers, you're typically going to do these things called split landings. I believe we spoke about them on the show before. And this is sort of where the vast majority of the ships are starting to land, because the accountants and the ship designers and the marketing teams have all kind of found that the magic number for expedition cruising right now is somewhere between 145 and 178 passengers. That's kind of where there's a good guide to passenger ratio, a good number of Zodiacs, a good number of room in the lecture theaters. So you're going to see a lot of these ships are all sitting in that 150 to 180 range. A couple a little bit above, some a little bit below. But when you're on one of these ships that has more than 100, less than 200, you do a split landing. And that means is that you're going to divide the ship into two groups, and group A will go to land first, and group B will go on a Zodiac cruise. That might last 60 to 90 minutes, somewhere around there. And then after that time is done, you're going to switch, and group B will go from the Zodiacs and they'll land. And then group A will then go on a Zodiac cruise. And that happens just in the morning. And once that's all done, you're going to come back for lunch. The ship is going to relocate, and you're going to go have lunch on the ship. And while it's relocating, you're going to go somewhere new in the afternoon and do it all over again. And this time, maybe they'll do group B goes to land first and group A goes to the Zodiac cruise first. And it repeats. Those are the ships where you actually get more, I think you get more diversity on these trips. Yes, you're getting less landing time, which is what everybody's focused on, but you're getting as much time on land as you are getting now in the Zodiacs. So you're getting 2 landings and 2 Zodiac cruises per day, which I think is a great way to experience Antarctica. And of course, there's anomalies to this. There's exceptions. There's weather. There's ice. There's, like we mentioned, there's a couple places where it's a Zodiac cruise only, or there might be an instance where the landing site is blocked off due to ice and we can't land, but we'll go for a Zodiac cruise. Or the landing site is totally accessible, but it just might be too windy or splashy for a good Zodiac cruise, and we'll do a landing. This is the instance where we have half the ship is off and half the ship is on. So those are the 2 scenarios where we're going to be seeing Zodiac cruising and landings. And the other instance we kind of talked about is just when you go to a Zodiac cruise only place. So if you are starting to get all hyped up about wanting to do Zodiac cruises from this episode by now, you kind of want to start looking at those ships that are between 100 and 200. Now, there are exceptions. There are some ships in that category that do not offer split landings, and we're not going to go into those here on this episode. But if you are interested, just feel free to shoot us an email, info@thedrakeshake.com, and then we could always talk about which companies are in that 170 passenger range, but don't do splits. It's not for every company, but it is the general rule of thumb in that range. Phil, quick question. You and I have been guiding for 10 or so years. And when you first started guiding, you were a kayak guide at first. So it might not apply to you. Yeah, I was just super excited to be on land all the time, right? And then I think like the last 4 or 5 seasons that I've been, not even like 6 seasons, like I maybe go touch land once or twice a season just to say I did it. I'm in the Zodiacs driving every day as much as I can. Like when you were the assistant expedition leader and you had to make like rosters for the day, we always had like little magnets with our names on them, and you would move them around for who's on land and who's driving. No, you just knew with a Sharpie marker, put Neil's name next to a Zodiac, no matter where we were going. Just put me in a boat, leave me alone, let me go do my thing. And it's so much. I love being in a Zodiac. Is that the case for you?
1000%. Couldn't emphasize more. If I spent an entire trip on the water and never touched land once, I'd consider it a successful voyage. Like you said, I was a kayak guide at first, like fell in love with being out in the water and being around that environment. And then Zodiac driving for a couple of reasons, right? Yes, being on the water is where it happens. But as a guide, as someone who's really passionate about these places, you have a chance where you have a captive audience and they're not going anywhere for 60 or 90 minutes. So they have to listen to you. They have to laugh at most of your jokes unless they're truly not funny. And then you get the chance to put it all together for somebody. So, you spend your career learning about a place, and you get to go out and have this like mobile classroom where you're talking about stuff, you're learning about people that are on board. And generally speaking, you have like a fascinating group of people in each Zodiac that you go out with. It's just like the Antarctica attracts this class of person that is just so cool to interact with and in a conversation and get to learn what people do. And everyone's just super intrigued and interested. And they ask really good questions. You have a guide that's super engaged. You have guests that are really curious, and you have this vehicle where you get to go just check stuff out. And it's the best because you get to like talk about these things and engage with this audience that is like really ravenous for the information that you have to offer. And I think it's one of the coolest dynamics in expedition cruising to have that hour, like you were saying, Neil, with a guide that really wants to transmit information and passion. So yeah, put me on the water every time.
I'm going to share a funny story. It was my first season guiding ever, and I was so green, so green. And I think it was like my third time ever dropping passengers off on shore, and we were at Danko. And I was dropping I was waiting to drop my Zodiac off on shore. And I was maybe like 30 meters from the shore. And everyone's focused on the landing site. Everyone's just paying attention. I'm standing on the tiller motor, and all of a sudden a minke whale swims underneath the boat. And it startled me. And I just yelled, "Oh shit," as loud as I could. I was actually scared. I got startled for a second, and all the passengers freaked out. And the expedition leader's on shore, and he looks at me. He's like, "Be more professional." I was like, this whale just swam under my boat. Like I was really excited, but I was also really like startled for a second because I don't know what was in my brain. I thought we were going to get rocked over or something. And that was when I knew I was born to be a Zodiac driver. So, I also like part of the fun, sometimes we get silly questions, and you got to read the room on it, but just being able to have fun with the clients when they ask you a silly question,
Ooh. What's the silliest question you've gotten?
There's a lot of them, but the one that always stands out was that we were driving the Zodiacs, and a guest looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, these snow-capped mountains, it's so beautiful. How high above sea level are we?" and I looked over, and I wanted to be like, 1.5 feet, so, but instead I was like, well, when we entered the Drake Passage, we were at about 12,000. And as we continue to sail further towards Antarctica, we climb up about 1,000 meters of elevation per 10 nautical miles, right? And So the guy who asked the question is looking at me with like all this, like, wow, this is really informative. I would have never imagined we were that high. Then like 4 other people on the boat started looking at me like questioning their understanding of sea level.
Sea level meant.
Yeah. And then like the other 3 or 4 people were just trying to like hold in their laugh and their snickers. Right. And you got to do it. You got to be sensitive about it. You don't want to make the person feel stupid. Right. But you want to make them realize their own question, like help them get to the answer on their own. So having fun in the Zodiacs like that is good camaraderie on there. But one thing I do feel bad about though is like sometimes when you get the same passenger, like 4 Zodiac cruises in a row and they got to hear the same old tired jokes that we all have and you got to hear the same routine. So it's definitely, it's a whole entire experience in itself that is well worth the consideration when considering what size ship you want to book. And I think that it shouldn't be viewed as a time filler. One thing that comes to mind too is that South Georgia. I mean, South Georgia is another great place to consider Zodiac cruising because the landing sites in South Georgia are just incredible. Like you're literally walking with hundreds of thousands of penguins. But there's a point where like you get up to the front of the rookery and you can't see any further and you don't really have a clear understanding of the depth. Your brain can't put the pieces of the puzzle together to know exactly what you're looking at. When you're looking at a wall of penguins in front of you and then 2 miles down the beach, there's just penguins as far as you can see, like salt and pepper on the beach. It isn't until you get into the Zodiacs that you can really grasp the sheer vastness of it. So don't even sleep on Zodiac cruising in South Georgia. The whaling stations are super awesome to go through. Stromness, like all that stuff is really cool. Zodiacs in South Georgia can be incredible. Phil and I have had some of the most amazing Zodiac cruises. The fur seal pups, like all of it. The king penguins in South Georgia are far more engaging when you're in a Zodiac than they are when you're on shore. They love to swim up to the Zodiac and peck at the pontoon. And
they're very curious. Them and the sheath bills. Sometimes I'll be sitting alone in my boat and I'll have like 10 or 15 sheath bills just land on the side of my Zodiac, which is funny until you realize you have to clean the Zodiac after that. they are a bit messy, but just on the South Georgia thing, Neil, some of my favorite places in South Georgia are Zodiac cruise only. Cooper's Bay, Hercules Bay. There's Dragalski Fjord if you get into Larson Harbor. It can be a brilliant Zodiac cruise. So there's opportunities there just for the cruising only components. I think that's something that once everybody experiences that, they realize the value it brings because it's just tremendous. These landscapes, like you say, you see huge peaks and huge penguin colonies rolling by and you get big leopard seals, you get into kelp forests, which you don't find in the Antarctic. There's just a ton to see. It's really fun.
You briefly touched on it a little earlier about the photography side of things in a Zodiac. And I think the first time I ever went to Antarctica, I was super into my photography. I had like 4 cameras and lenses and all this stuff with me. And I was a little bit worried about being at the mercy of the Zodiac driver from a photography standpoint. Like, oh, they're not going to get the light right, whatever. And then you start to realize that these guides have been doing this. And most of them are all really into photography themselves. You'll get positioned most of the time exactly what you were looking for anyway. But if not, you can always just ask the driver, like, hey, can we maybe go around this side of it so I can get this side of the seal's face or something? Like if you've got a leopard seal like yawning on the ice, your driver's going to put you in a position to get the teeth, the mouth open view, you know? We have to be respectful of certain things like distances and maybe there's some safety concerns. But for the most part, if you just said to your driver, like, hey, sun's over here, can we go on this side of the ice and get the better shot of it? They're like, yeah, sure, totally. A lot of times the Zodiac drivers, because you're always in a buddy system. So we didn't really talk about that, but you got 2 Zodiacs that are kind of driving side by side all the time. A lot of times what we'll do is if you have like a piece of wildlife on ice, the drivers will go on both sides and they'll get photos of the other boat with the wildlife in the foreground and they'll take turns getting photos of each other. It's definitely, there's a lot of camaraderie and teamwork that goes together in these Zodiac cruises. So I think that's another fun part about it too. I can't say it enough. It's just not a time filler. It is super awesome. I think from every aspect of it. Go ahead, Phil.
Can I just to say a couple of things about photography on boats? There's a couple of things that people need to know before they go down that would maybe help make some choices around photography, especially if you're into your DSLRs and different lenses and that kind of thing. There's just some things to understand about the dynamics of the Zodiac cruise himself. It's you and it's maybe 10 other people in a Zodiac, and everyone's got cameras and everyone wants to take pictures of the same thing. And your drivers are going to be really good at organizing photography, and they'll brief you beforehand. Every time you get on a Zodiac, you'll get a quick, hey, here's where we are, here's what we want to do, and here's how we're going to behave in these certain circumstances. Your guide is your guide, and they are captaining the Zodiac cruise for you. And when you get to an opportunity to, say, photograph that seal on ice, you're going to have your guide put you in a position to photograph this thing. And, it can be tough with wind and current and, the ice that's around you, but your driver really will try to do their best to position you in the ideal place to take that photograph. Your driver will often say, hey, this side of the boat needs to kneel down, turn around, and face the wildlife on one side of the Zodiac, while the other side of the Zodiac stays seated with their cameras, and they're photographing over the heads of the opposite side of the boat. So everyone gets to photograph the same thing at the same time, and people are moving around and active on these Zodiac cruises. So it's important to understand that when you're out in this environment, when you're in the Antarctic taking photos, you really want to have the kind of kit that allows you to make the most of a situation without having to fumble with it too much. An iPhone is great. Having one of those iPhone cases with the lanyard, and you keep that around your neck, you bust that out really quick, and you can take a video, you can take a photo. Sometimes on a Zodiac cruise, access is key. Just to take a quick photo. If you have Neil's Minky popping up by the side of your Zodiac, and you're just like, whoa, that was completely unexpected, explicative. You can take out your phone and put, take a photo or a video of it really quick, where the guy with the DSLR is still fumbling with the DSLR to get it out of the pack. So, you have advantages to everything. But for those that are carrying a DSLR with them that want to take those high quality, high res images, the biggest thing I'd say is have the appropriate kind of kit to protect your photography equipment. You want to have a solid dry bag for your camera and for your lenses. You want to have the batteries to switch into your camera in case your battery runs dry because it's cold, and they drain faster in cold environments. And you definitely want to have an extra memory card ready to go in case you just max out on your photos, because sometimes that happens. Just the other thing I wanted to mention is that, people often have like a small lens and then a big lens. And, if you're photographing landscapes on a Zodiac cruise, but you're also photographing wildlife. And one of the things I found helped me a lot as a photographer on Zodiacs is that I had a lens that kind of bridged the gap. I had a 28 millimeter to a 300 millimeter lens. It's a Nikon lens, and every platform has got their own kind of equivalent of that kind of lens. But I found that gave me the ability to go wide, and then the ability to get close into wildlife that I was looking at from the Zodiac. So it's something to consider.
For sure. I think that's not everybody's going to be carrying these DSLRs and stuff. For
no
people
way.
That are, yeah. I just don't sleep on cell phone photography these days. I think there's a very, very well seen photo of mine. It's me in a Zodiac I was in by myself, and there was orcas porpoising in front of my Zodiac, and I've got probably $6,000 to $8,000 worth of camera equipment hanging from my hip, and I'm sitting there filming it on like my Pixel 5. Like, it's just because, like you said, like I had long lenses. I was filming kayakers, and all of a sudden these orcas just came out of nowhere, and I was filming it on my phone. But the proper equipment, the proper dry bags, all of that is super, super important. I think another thing before we kind of wrap this up, we might be giving people a little bit of uncertainty about their getting in and out of Zodiacs. We get that question a lot. Will I be able to get in and out of my Zodiac? Nikki, have you, on your last couple of trips, so you want to describe kind of like...
Yes, I've been on a handful of trips that I've been on have had people with mobility issues, between moderate to severe mobility issues. And the thing is that the staff is trained to help you. They know what they're doing. They know how to get you on and off. They know how to read the waves that are coming in. They know how to help you as an individual. So from my experience, I haven't personally seen anyone who's unable to participate in the Zodiac cruising. People sometimes the landings are a little bit too challenging, but Zodiac cruising is a really great way for people with mobility issues to see a lot of amazing stuff, because you don't have to exert yourself in as significant of a way. It's just the getting in and the getting out, and there's staff there to assist you for the duration of that. And then also your fellow passengers are, I've never seen someone refuse to offer a helping hand on a Zodiac cruise. Everyone's always there to have your back.
You took the words right out of my mouth, actually.
Yoink.
The people, like we go somewhere that we'll use Danko again, another example. Like Danko, there's not a whole lot to do on the landing site except for walk uphill. So a lot of times when we have the mobility challenged people, they just ask if they can do a double Zodiac cruise. They go, nah, I can't walk up that. Can I just do 2 Zodiac cruises? And then like they're like stoked on it. They're like, actually, then everybody else is like, can I do 2 Zodiac cruises? By the end of the trip, people are just wanting to do double Zodiac cruises. I see it more often.
That's so real. Cause you're also exhausted by the end of it. There's, you're 9 days into this trip where you're getting up at 6 o'clock every single morning and you're going to bed exhausted and you've been running around and you're eating nonstop food and you're just tired. And the idea of just sitting and kind of being able to like passenger princess your way around the polar regions is fantastic.
We didn't really have a cold opener on this one. We kind of just, like I said, we forgot how to do this. So maybe we'll have a cold closer.
God, I can't wait to see what that means.
Phil, have you ever popped a Zodiac?
I've never popped a Zodiac. I've seen Zodiacs popped.
I popped a Zodiac on a trip that you were on.
Yeah. You asked if I had popped a Zodiac, Neil.
But you're.
I remember you popping a Zodiac. I remember other Zodiac pops too.
We got anything else to add to the Zodiac cruising episode?
I don't think so.
No, just get excited. Get excited. Get out there. Get on a Zodiac and do the thing, because they'll do anything and everything. We didn't talk about Zodiacs being the absolute best vehicle for getting up to ice and seeing icebergs and glaciers and stuff. We talked about wildlife, but the icebergs and glaciers, I mean, let's not pretend that those aren't impressive too.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's nice too, because if you drive by a small enough piece of ice, your Zodiac driver may pick it up and you may get to hold a little iceberg, which is always a very thrilling thing to do. I do not recommend licking them. I see a lot of people licking them and I don't know if I can recommend that.
Totes safe.
I recommend it.
I do.
Okay, well, color me incorrect.
I think that's an opinion, like if you don't like it, that's cool. I love it. I'll take ice out of the water and chew on it sometimes if I'm thirsty.
That's part of the educational stuff, right? You're picking up 100,000-year-old ice.
Yeah, but aren't you not supposed to then consume that? Because couldn't there be like freaky diseases in there? I don't know. Maybe I'm just traumatized from my recent freaky disease situation, so I'm a little more cautious.
I'll give you a pass on this one, Nikki. 100% pass forever.
I think we've covered everything that I mean, there's so much more to it. We want to do a ship capacity episode and dedicate one to that and talk about all the different levels of like what the categories are and going over 200 and the 500 and stuff. But because we're coming up on the season, the 26-27 season is amongst us. We still have people who are in their planning stages. And I think it's really important it's really important for us to talk about this, because we're still getting questions every day about, I want to book a ship under 100 passengers. And I understand that you might have read a blog from 2004 that says, I want to be on a ship with only 100 passengers on it because I want to land. But the market has shifted. I think the programs have grown, they've adapted, and they are now very much designed to carry between 100 and 200 in a way that maximizes your expedition experience without hindering it. Other than that, any closing thoughts from you, kiddos?
Nope.
I think we put it all out there.
Nailed it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
All right. Then I guess it's a thing. It's been around for a long time. All right, we're going to leave it off there with a little bit of disdain from the team. If you're interested in booking a trip, do consider reaching out to us. You can visit our website at letsgopolar.com. We have some new features on that website. We have the polar quiz that we just launched. This is just a really fun, interactive way for you to kind of get pointed in the right direction by a little bit of a Q&A. We do have a new promotions page. So if you go on to Browse Departures and you see current promotions, you'll see all the live promotions that are currently allowed to be posted publicly. But remember, we always have private deals that we're not allowed to put online. So definitely reach out to us. And if you have any questions or feedback about the show, you can always send us a message at info@thedrakeshake.com. I'd like to thank again, Phil Hunter, our special guest. Phil, you're always great to have on the show. Nikki. All right. You are off on another adventure. Enjoy the eclipse tomorrow. And then you're off to meandering around Ireland for a bit. And then we are off to Greenland soon. My wife, Ricardo, my brother-in-law, we're all going to go to Greenland in a couple weeks. So we'll be in and out. We'll be getting some more episodes in. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Neil Drake, and that was The Shake.
If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we discuss a new topic in depth. And if you have any questions, feedback, or just want to say hey, feel free to drop us a line at info@thedrakeshake.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.